who are on stage one. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gary Amaral, co-founder and CMO here at Breadcrumbs. However, this is not about me. We're so lucky today to have Christie Horsman, Director of Demand Gen at Thinkific, someone who I've had the pleasure of working with for many years now. And so excited to hear what she has to say about the state of cute in B2B marketing today. Christy, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. It's so fun to be here today, and talk about, why our B2B marketing isn't cute enough. It's definitely the title for me is, I'll get into it and I'll explain it, but it's definitely a cute title. Let's call it that. So who am I and why am I talking about cute marketing today? As Gary mentioned, I'm Christy and excited to be here, director of our current demand generation and marketing operations team at Thinkific, which is an e-learning software. And we are specialized from, all the way from that early stage creator all the way up into our B2B scale business, which is Thinkific Plus. We support creators at every stage of their journey, and it's a really amazing place to work with a great mission. As my interesting fact, I kind of always go to food. So I I've said that I put Dijon mustard on pretty much everything. If you're a mustard fan, throw it out in the comments. I love to hear different kinds of mustard. Yeah, but Dijon definitely in any shape or form is one of my favorites. But let's get into why we're here today. And thanks again so much for joining us. So again, what is cute? Why are we talking about cute today? And let's define it first, because cute in this context isn't that pink and fluffiness that you're probably thinking about, but what is cute right now? And what do I mean by cute? It's tongue in cheek. Right? It's this tone that's slightly disparaging. It's also witty. And you'll find this tone a lot, up and down kind of the comment section in social media, especially on TikTok. And in terms of my personal marketing journey, it's something that I have been paying attention to for a while. This shift in this narrative of, B2B businesses getting away from the stuffier tone of voice and creating something that is more relatable, right? Realizing that, B2B doesn't just mean that you're speaking to a C-suite. Yeah, you're depending on your buyer personas. C-suite's definitely part of a buying decision potentially. But at that point, your champion, who you should be speaking to, is showing them your product fit and showing them the ROI of that product. So when we think about cute, we're thinking about who are we speaking to and who is that person and not that organization that we're speaking to. So in terms of what we did to kind of break down this opportunity is we realized that our target audience was just that, right? It was our champions and they were people. And when you realize that you're talking to people in marketing, it becomes a lot easier, right? We all know how to speak to people, to speak to each other. So these people are looking for a brand to have that lasting personality, and you want to be that brand that brings the cute or injects that witty tongue-in-cheek behavior and creates that lasting impression. It's something that we've actually been seeing in B2C for years, but is being pushed further into this B2B marketing mix. And I think we're going to see this a lot more, especially not just on TikTok, but you see it definitely especially in that TikTok that comment section, but on other channels and mediums as well. So let's get into what we did about it in a second, but I want to just transition to a really great example. So you might be familiar if you're on TikTok with Emily Zugay. She has actually gone viral for kind of tongue-in-cheek, again, redesigning well-known company logos and mascots. Large brands often try to get her attention in her comment section, asking for a redesign. The redesigns are quite funny. I'll show you an example in a second, but I wanted to call out HootSuite. So HootSuite just relaunched their brand earlier this year. And what they did was actually very much move away from that stuffier kind of B2B brand and push forward. They're always had that kind of like cute, cuddly, almost, funny tone of voice from the Owlie, which is their mascot. And they really wanted to emphasize Owlie and stand out in their field. And so what they did was they took Owlie, they obviously made him red, but they actually employed Zugay to help launch their own new kind of playful tone of voice. And this is a really good example of a B2B brand utilizing that tone of voice and creating something memorable. Now, excuse my screenshots because, It's not beautiful, but this is what I wanted to show you. So here Suge, she always does this kind of overlay. She does this very tongue-in-cheek example of what Owly could be in terms of what the mascot redesign looked like. And then I wanted to show this example again in the comment section, because you see this B2B brand, which is Hootsuite, really replying as a person to a person. And this is a really good example because they're using that cute, that kind of tongue-in-cheek tone of voice, and they're making themselves more relatable as that brand as they launch their new brand. Great. I love this example. I think it's hilarious. If you're not familiar with her, please go follow her. It's very, very funny. But you'll see that there's lots of other brands in her comment section, well-known brands like Adobe, Microsoft, and other ones that are actually going after her to help kind of relaunch their brand as a more approachable version. So what did we do? When we're thinking about, that B2B marketing, obviously I'm calling, it doesn't have to be stuffy or impersonal or formal. You want to take a look at your tone of voice and how you apply it, right? You want to speak to people. And social platforms, like I mentioned, TikTok are one of the best mediums to try a new voice and inject some playfulness. It's also one of the best ways to kind of get immediate feedback. So that's one of the best places to start. But we actually tried this in our own work, and we've been slowly increasing the amount of cute we produce in our marketing tone of voice for a while. But the end of last year, we decided to go all in and create this really memorable, cute kind of campaign that was very tongue-in-cheek around the benefit of our CSMs. Plus, Thinkific Plus has a dedicated CSM to your overall business, which is great in terms of those time to value metrics as you're getting started. And we wanted to highlight the benefit of that CSM and really think about, who are we talking to, right? Who is that person, that champion, and how are we going to get their attention, but using a different tone of voice than what they're used to. So we took a very tongue-in-cheek approach to the campaign, and ultimately we wanted to highlight the benefit, but we also wanted to be cute. And so I have an example of what that was later on, and I can share it with the group post this. But what we ended up with was a very cute, short video that was very tongue-in-cheek in terms of our CSMs didn't have time to make a commercial. They had time with their customers. And what we wanted to do is create something that was, obviously a little bit outside of our normal tone of voice. But we also wanted to make sure that we actually were showcasing a clear personality shift. And so those small adjustments that we made in the beginning on social and in some blog posts, we actually turned that into a larger campaign, as I mentioned, and we were able to kind of measure the impact of that. And so that's really important when we're talking about how do we do this in practice. Again, we want to infuse cheeky messaging or make adjustments in our tone of voice, but do it in places where you're going to have the most feedback. So things like social, blog, things that are going directly to your customers, and then start infusing it in other places as well. So making sure that it still has that consistency, but you're starting small and you're building. When I think of cute B2C brands and things that they have done, and words like, aesthetically appealing, energetic, rebellious, original, authentic, those were the words that came to mind when we were thinking of employing this tactic. And then we also looked at going viral, right? Like, what is going viral? What is actually, happening in social media that we can kind of capitalize on and take maybe our own approach with. Once we decided that we were testing this in our social and blog, we wanted to make sure that when we went to out with a larger campaign and that we invested real dollars, that it was completely measurable. So we want to make sure that when you do these things, that you can measure the impact that they have on the back end. And I'll let you know that the outcome for us was really great. We actually had, all the makings of viral cuteness from our videos, and this ended up being one of our best performing campaigns from a top of funnel metric standpoint. This was the video that we created was one of the most shared and viewed videos on our social channels ever, as well as our landing page, blog posts, webinar that went along with the campaign were some of the best performing we've ever seen. And we're still seeing, because this was fairly recently, we're still seeing a fair amount of closed won. And we also have a large amount of inbound pipe that's still attributed to this campaign. So really excited to, share this with you in terms of, how to interject that kind of cute tone of voice, remove that fluff, speak like a person, and make sure that you can monitor and test your data for outcomes. So, key takeaway from today, what if you heard nothing of what I said today, which is totally fair because I've said a lot in a very short span of time. But it really does make a difference. So, what is cute, right? It's wit, it's humor, it's tongue in cheek. And those pieces of, copy, of tone of voice, are more memorable than seriousness. And I think seriousness still has a place and a time, but adding humor is actually proven to increase interest and reduce negative emotions. So, why would you not do this? Why would you not inject a playful tone into some of your marketing, to try and show who you are as a brand, and make yourselves more memorable? Great. Thanks.
Amazing. Good job.
Yeah.
And hard to play the devil's advocate here because I agree with you. We were having conversations about this 5 or 6 years ago,
Yep.
and how a B2B persona is still a person,
Yep.
right?
Ah,
And there's no real difference
mhm.
in terms of like how they want to be communicated to and how they emotionally react to content. So I guess my question is, how do you respond to the people that are like adamant, like, hey, it's B2B, the C-suite is serious,
Mm.
and you need to prove it with facts and figures, and cute just doesn't resonate. How
Yeah.
do you respond to that?
I think the first response for me is the facts and figures, right? Like we have the proof is in the pudding in the terms of, you start small in areas that you don't think, I'm going to get immediate response for, but I also am going to get some measurable response. So for me, when people are like, oh, like you have to use, this certain tone of voice, because we're talking to a large organization that's quite serious. And it's like, no, but who are you talking to within that organization? But then also look at the email click rate that we got, on this subject line versus this subject line, right? You test it and you use the data to back up the hypothesis. It's like anything in marketing. We're all data driven. We're all looking for, how to make our metrics better. And so you test things and make sure that, you're not too far off base. We've had a few real funny subject lines go out recently with our newsletters, and we've had people respond actually and say, hey, like I don't think like I like this. And that was one person, and the majority of it is really, really positive. And then again, the click-through rate, or the people that are clicking through to your webinar, or requesting to talk to sales, is that proof for me.
Right. Okay, let's take it a level deeper, like away from like kind of the big picture to the more tactical, right? Like imagining cute in brand
Yes.
marketing, pretty easy to make that leap, right? And like the Thinkific ad with a CS rep who's like too busy to shoot the commercial, very
Yeah.
cute, very funny.
Yeah.
How do you translate that kind of further down your channels, right? Like, what does that look like in email? What does that look like with your like ebooks and content creation strategy? How do you weave that cute thread through everything?
So one of the things that we've actually done just from a practical standpoint is we've described what this tone of voice is in an actual document that we have as part of our updated brand guidelines. So just from a practical standpoint, making sure that that tone of voice is described as, hey, we're a little bit witty, we're a little bit disparaging, but we're also quite serious when it comes to, when we're talking directly about the product. And I think that's the real difference, is that we can be a kind of witty and disparaging and jump on kind of that almost like a viral, cute, tongue-in-cheek tone of voice. But when we get down to the product, we end up being a little more serious. And that's the level, that we've kind of taken, in
Mm,
between. So, or I guess to draw a line in the sand. And so with that, we review and have been reviewing most of our copy to see if we kind of match that guideline.
right.
And so for me, it was really about educating the writers and as well as the rest of the team to make sure that they have the information, applicable in terms of like, what is that tone of voice and where do we draw the line?
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I guess from your perspective, like short term kind of fad, like, short pop from like the
Yeah.
shock and awe of it,
Yeah.
or like enduring trend.
I think it's an enduring trend because to your point, we have seen it come for the last, like 6-7 years. Like, this isn't new, right?
Right.
It's definitely more on the forefront when you see these brands on social mediums really like going for it in the comment section,
Mhm.
trying to get that attention. But it's really not that new. It's something that's been happening, this B2C, B2B shift for quite some time.
Right.
Um, and and I think that you're always going to have brands trying to stand out and try to be different.
Yeah.
And with that, you're going to have this kind of, how do we change our tone of voice? How do we change our brand identity? What is that brand refresh that we need? And this is really part of that. But I do think that where the line probably will always be drawn is, we don't make fun of ourselves in terms of like the product that we create, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we can be funny and we can be a little disparaging and we can be tongue in cheek, but when it comes down to, business, I
Yeah.
think that like we'll always draw that line around
Yeah.
product. Yeah.
Christie, thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks for that hot take. Everyone out there watching, obviously you can find Christie on LinkedIn. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you if you have a point of view or if you'd like to learn more about what's going on at Thinkific and their increasing use of Qt in their marketing. I appreciate you joining us. We're going to take a quick break as usual. Please stay tuned. We have Chris Decker joining us shortly. He's going to be sharing the importance of founders' role in creating content and how important that is to survival in the modern world. Enjoy the break. Talk soon. Thanks again, Christie.
Thanks for having me.